The Pyrenees cast long shadows across the Iberian Peninsula as baby elephants, captured in North Africa, explored their new surroundings. Under the watchful gaze of Hannibal Barca, these unusual recruits would soon become the backbone of a beast-led army. Carthaginian stele whisper tales of their training, a symphony of reed pipes echoing from distant Carthage, as mahouts hone their skills to awaken fear in foes. Imagine these titans swaying on Phoenician cedar decks, storm-lashed seas threatening panic. Crossing the ancient Rhone, their tusks cleave the icy alpine air, each step echoing the untamed wild, a promise sealed by Hamilcar's uncompromising oath. Picture the Iberian landscape, rugged and sprawling, where dusty paths bear witness to marching armies side by side with improbable, yet undeniable companions, elephant calves. This is where the echoes of the past call us, to an ancient theatre where Carthaginian ambition took shape. Here we meet Hannibal Barca, a general whose aspirations seemed as vast as the lands he yearned to conquer. In the whispering corridors of history, we find an oath, an unyielding promise wrapped in the tender strength of young elephants. Their presence signals a unique alliance between man and beast that would leave an indelible mark upon the world. Hamilcar's vision was one of audacity, transcending combat's conventional confines. Stationed in Iberia, beneath a sky often heavy with the promise of conquest, he dreamt not merely of glory. His was a commitment to pave a path so formidable that future generations, including his renowned son Hannibal, would continue to challenge Rome's burgeoning empire. This dream was forged in a cauldron of strategy, where the fierce warriors under his command and the elephant calves he raised were both seen as integral forces in his grand design. In the heart of Iberia, the very sight of these baby elephants, alien yet enchanting, illuminated Carthaginian ingenuity. Transported from the far stretches of North Africa, they survived voyages harsh and grueling, kindling curiosity and awe. On Punic coinage from Gades, these elephants became symbols embodying both commerce and military might. Their young presence was not incidental. They were deliberate influences in Hamilcar's strategy. Here in the Iberian hills, they represented a fusion of pragmatism and wonder, a living, breathing testament to an army that challenged the norms of warfare. But capturing and transporting these majestic creatures was far from simple. It required skill, audacity, and a masterful orchestration of logistics. Historical records paired with modern isotopic analysis confirm the extraordinary lengths Carthaginian forces went to realise this endeavour. This chimera of ambition, wrangling elephants from Africa, transporting them over treacherous seas and landscapes, demonstrates the practical genius of Hannibal Barca. This meticulous effort cemented elephants as an essential part of Carthaginian might, preparing them to become incredible participants in the ever-unfolding drama of war. Elephants have eternally symbolised might and majesty. Their image immortalised on Carthaginian coinage promises both economic and militaristic strength. As living embodiments of power, these creatures were strategic innovations designed to instill dread in adversaries. Not merely ornamental, their depiction signalled a promise, an unimaginable spectacle on the battlefield. They foreshadowed an era where perception was as vital as raw strength. When flanked by infantry, their looming presence was designed to intimidate and redefine warfare, showcasing innovation through Hamilcar's eyes. Yet, integrating these creatures into Carthaginian society required significant adaptation. They were not merely tools of war. Their presence demanded resources, care, and a structured environment. A spirit of adaptability that encapsulated Hamilcar's strategy. Shelters for their imposing frames, feeding schedules, preparation alongside their human counterparts, every detail was carefully considered. Their defensive potential was as significant as their offensive one, turning them into icons of military might rather than mere symbols on currency. But Hamilcar's elephants transcended even beyond battlefields. They emerged as cultural symbols that enriched Carthaginian legend and storytelling. Elevated beyond mere instruments of war, they became icons in their own right, representing the grand ambitions and legacy of the Carthaginian people. Their stories, blending myth with reality, continue to captivate us today. Separating truth from legend, coins and records, and even modern science, lend weight to these storied elephants who once roamed ancient lands. In the sprawling landscapes of Iberia, the elephants found a fitting environment to grow into formidable forces of war. This land, with its diverse terrain and nourishing resources, enabled them to flourish. Against the backdrop of Celtic tribes and bustling trade routes, these elephants represented the confluence of nature's rhythms and human enterprise, a testament to Hamilcar's vision and determination. This tale of Hamilcar and his elephants is a perfect union of myth and reality, intertwining history with an air of mystery that draws us in like moths to a flame. The improbable becomes plausible here, and fables contain kernels of truth. This discerning exploration of Hannibal Barca's vision reveals not just his military strategies, but the spirit of a time when human ambition and natural wonder danced on fragile yet unbreakable lines. In the ancient Iberian lands, the stage was set for these elephants to play crucial roles in the saga of Carthaginian warfare. Their growth paralleled human ambition, woven into Hamilcar's profound vision, a narrative that embraced aspiration, challenged convention, and reshaped history. They were not just calves in a foreign landscape, but symbols of tenacity and foresight. As they grew, preparing to accompany Hannibal on his legendary campaigns, these elephants became living testaments to a bond between nature and aspiration, assured that their tales would endure through the corridors of time. In the sweeping landscapes of North Africa and Syria, a unique partnership emerged, one that bridged the divide between the human and animal worlds. Here, the mahouts of ancient Carthage, skilled elephant trainers, cultivated relationships that transcended mere command over their massive charges. These were not simple handlers. They were custodians of a mystical bond, understanding the nuances of their elephants' needs and instincts. Ancient texts, such as those from Aelian, and carvings from Carthage itself shed light on this deep connection, revealing how the mahouts devoted their lives to their elephant wards. It was a bond so profound that in the throes of battle or the quiet moments of dawn, the mahout's commands could direct these massive creatures with precision and mutual respect. The techniques employed to nurture this bond were as fascinating as they were intricate. Reed pipes and subtle gestures, meticulously detailed in historical records, were not mere tools of coercion, but a sophisticated language of communication. The haunting melodies of the pipes were not just commands, they became part of the elephant's world, a rhythmic dialect shared under the sweltering sun. Intrigued by these methods, one sees how similar practices persist among modern Asian mahouts, hinting at a timeless craft that transcends continents and centuries. This harmony between trainer and beast elevated their interactions to more than just training. It was an elegant dance of survival and understanding. The art of command through music formed a significant chapter in Carthaginian history. In the turbulent chaos of warfare, the melodic notes of the reed pipe became an extension of the mahout's will, piercing through the cacophony of battle with clarity and intent. For these elephants, with their acute hearing, this was not just instruction, it was an immersive experience, a reassurance of the familiar amidst the foreign terror of war. Comparisons to today's practices with Asian elephants reveal the sophistication of these ancient methods, transforming the seemingly simple reed pipe into a symbol of unity and control, blending human intellect with animal instinct. However, the harmony needed an array of carefully designed tools. Carvings from Carthage depict formidable accessories like ankle chains and spiked goads, used in training sessions to instill discipline among these colossal beasts. Such tools were not symbols of mere domination, they illustrated a balance between safety and freedom. Chains help manage young elephants, limiting movement to prevent accidents during early training. In contrast, the spiked goads reveal a necessary edge of control, a nuanced response to the challenges of taming sheer power. Consequently, these instruments reflected a pragmatic approach, a delicate equilibrium between nurturing capability and maintaining security. Each elephant uniquely navigated its world, its temperament a key factor in how it was trained. Carthaginian mahouts understood the individuality of these majestic beasts, tailoring their strategies to match each elephant's personality. Ancient narratives present this personalised touch as vital. An elephant aligned with its own nature was far more formidable. Modern insights into elephant psychology affirm this, recognising them as social beings with rich emotional lives. By grasping this emotional depth, mahouts crafted relationships that transcended traditional training, emphasising empathy beside command. The spectacle of elephants manoeuvring in synchronised formations was a demonstration of leadership, strategy, and the combined effort of man and beast. As these titans moved in unison, they presented not just a physical threat on the battlefield, but a psychological one as well. The tactics employed by Carthaginians were more than muscular might. They wielded the fear of elephants advancing under precise control. The sight of these creatures, fearsome, marching in disciplined cohesion, struck terror into opponents, showcasing Carthage's strategic prowess. Despite the successes, the journey of training elephants was not without peril. Mishaps were part and parcel of the process, with inevitable misunderstandings leading to chaos and risk. Ancient texts do not shy away from recounting these moments, lending insight into a reality where the thin line between mastery and disaster was constantly navigated. Told with an honest edge, these stories reveal the resilient nature of the mahouts, who adapted with each challenge, refining methods and deepening their understanding of these precious animals. Modern parallels show how such experiences still inspire innovation and caution. This symbiotic relationship between Carthaginians and their elephants permeated cultural expressions too. Elephants were revered, adorned on coins and artifacts, representing power and prosperity. This reverence manifested in training, where mahouts treated their charges with awe and respect. Traces of this cultural perspective offer a deeper understanding of how elephants were more than war machines. They were symbols interwoven with Carthaginian identity. Training these titans required thoughtful site selection, leveraging the geography of North Africa and Iberia. Natural resources like waterways and foliage were essential for crafting environments conducive to elephant training, shaping both their physical conditioning and psychological readiness. These strategic decisions highlight Carthage's sophisticated logistical planning, which coalesced geography and human ingenuity. shaping elephants into symbols of awe that would pave their path across the Alps. And thus the legacy of Hannibal's elephants reverberates through time, an enduring testament to human and animal cooperation. Their journey across the Alps imprinted on military history, affecting Roman tactics and overshadowing Carthage's cultural lore. This story of ambition and collaboration has intrigued minds for centuries, a saga of shared endeavour, innovation, and the indomitable spirit of survival that transcends the ages. As Hannibal marshalled his men for what lay ahead, the Mediterranean loomed vast and imposing, a swirling expanse that would test both courage and capability. This daunting yet essential journey commenced from Carthage's bustling harbours, a departure filled with a mix of optimism and apprehension. The sea, often painted as the wine-dark abyss by poets like Homer, glistened under the rising sun, signalling the challenges of navigation, weather, and unforeseen storms yet to be encountered. Aware of these challenges, Hannibal's plan relied on the famed Phoenician craftsmanship, legendary for constructing vessels capable of withstanding the tempestuous waves. Cedar wood, a material known for its resilience, was integral in reinforcing decks designed specifically for Hannibal's precious cargo. Elephants. These vessels bore wider midships, catering to the needs of creatures unaccustomed to the restless sea. Each detail underscored Hannibal's mastery and strategy, ensuring the survival of his army beside the elephants they brought, beasts essential for the looming confrontation with Rome. Logistically, this undertaking was Herculean. Every need, from sustenance to medical supplies, had to be meticulously accounted for. The elephants required not just physical space, but also ample fodder and water. Hannibal, displaying his characteristic foresight, enlisted veteran sailors and seers, familiar with the sea's temperament. These seasoned navigators possessed intimate knowledge of the currents and weather patterns, often reading the moods of the Mediterranean better than any maps could predict. As the fleet set its course, the reality of leaving behind familiar shores settled across the men. The rising and falling of the distant Carthaginian coast painted a poignant backdrop against which the soldiers, now bound for unknown trials, reflected on the enormity of their commitment. Many knew that this departure was a rite of passage, an irrevocable crossing into a world filled with new perils and potential glories. Hannibal himself embodied this resolve, his eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of challenges to conquer. Days into the voyage, they faced their first true baptism by sea, nature's fury, manifesting as a tempest that swept across their path, unyielding and fierce. The once calm waters transformed into a tumultuous chaos. Livy's account paints a harrowing scene, intense winds howling and towering waves slamming against the vulnerable hulls. In this storm, amidst the flashing bolts of lightning, even seasoned mariners found their competence put to the test. The elephants, unused to the ceaseless motion, found themselves in distress, unable to comprehend the storm's fury. Their roars mingled with the tempest's ferocity as mahouts, trained caretakers, earnestly worked to soothe their frightened charges. Trust, built over long months of training, now stood as a bulwark against the panic that threatened the expedition's survival. Men clung to ropes and prayers alike, hoping to weather the rough, tempestuous skies had unleashed upon them. Guided by instinct more than sight, the navigators manoeuvred through this chaos, harnessing every scrap of their experience to guide the battered fleet on its course. These moments of crisis demanded not just skill, but also the indomitable will of every crew member. through sheer determination and Hannibal's unwavering leadership, they emerged from the storm scarred but intact, a testament to Carthaginian seamanship and the unyielding spirit driving them forward. Seasickness took its toll in the aftermath, weaving a sullen malaise amongst the ranks. In the close quarters of the ships, the air hung heavy with discomfort. Groans from both man and beast, unsettling the heartiest of stomachs. Through these trials, the emotional weight posed perhaps an even greater challenge than physical afflictions. Hannibal moved among his men, offering encouragement and fortifying their morale with tales of past victories and the glory they sought on Roman soil. Yet nature's caprice offered intervals of serene beauty. Nights adorned by starlit skies stretched infinite over tranquil seas. Under these celestial tapestries, the soldiers found respite to share stories and strengthen bonds. These fleeting moments of quietude served as a counterbalance to previous trials, a shared experience that crystallized their unity and purpose. In these calm interludes, Hannibal's foresight shone, further instilling faith in both journey and leader. Finally, the Gaulish coast emerged from the haze of the horizon, a rugged lifeline of unearthed potential where firm land awaited weary sailors. This sight brought tangible relief, a promise unbroken by the turmoil left behind. Shorelines marked not an end but a beginning. Under Hannibal's direction, the fleet surged forward with renewed vigour, re-energised by the firm promise of adventure pressing from Europe's heart. The task of bringing the elephants ashore demanded careful choreography, a dance of necessity on the makeshift paths they had to construct hastily. Every landing was a triumph over potential disaster, as Mahouts coordinated with soldiers, guiding the massive beast gently onto unfamiliar lands. Unified in this accomplishment, each step forward set the stage for Hannibal's grueling yet determined march inland. A testament to preparation meeting execution, a stride forward into history. As the fleet's final strides settled upon Gaul's firm ground, Hannibal stood poised to continue his campaign into the heart of Rome. The sea behind them had become a conquered frontier, its navigation a prelude to further trials across lands and mountains. His success limned a clear picture of an army capable of surpassing not just physical boundaries, but the very limits of ancient logistics. In every step taken from this maritime crossing, Hannibal's resolve carved the path forward, inching closer to the fabled Roman lands where the true test awaited. Hannibal's approach to the Rhone was a delicate dance of anticipation and tension, a moment suspended in time, as his army accentuated the horizon with silhouettes of horses and elephants. This river, wide and deceptively swift, was an unexpected frontier demanding a different kind of strategy from the cunning military genius. The Numidian cavalry, always thunderous, paraded along the riverbanks, their energy a palpable force awaiting the clash with Roman foes who had yet to comprehend the true nature of the approaching threat. Opposite them, Roman soldiers caught glimpses of massive shapes moving with a surreal majesty, like ghosts from distant chronicles. With local tribes whispering tales of wild-eyed giants and tusked behemoths, fear walked hand in hand with awe. Hannibal stood by the river's edge, assessing the challenge that was both an obstacle and an opportunity. A scene set for a confrontation that blurred lines between natural boundaries and human ambition. To conquer the Rhone demanded more than sheer force. It required innovation. Hannibal envisioned turning his elephants into a living bridge, a breathing pathway across the waters. However, crafting such a strategy wasn't without peril. It called for elephants to stand firm against the swirling currents, unshaken by the threat of Roman resistance from the shores. Preparation demanded patience and precision. Rafts were built and lashed together, a platform as much of wooden tenacity as it was of daring thought. Here stone and timber gave way to flesh and bone, and thus the stages were set for a crossing. Hannibal's innovation was not simply a matter of logistics, but an articulation of his deep understanding of both beast and battle. Amidst this grand manoeuvre, the Numidian cavalry played its part flawlessly. Their agile forms cut through the landscape with an elegance designed to distract the Romans, drawing their glances away from the main event. In their skilled hands, this distraction became an art form, mingling physical agility with psychological warfare, as Hannibal's forces readied their peculiar bridge. Roman scouts, their alert eyes caught by the Numidian movements, failed to notice the quiet progress of elephants and men towards crossing. Yet nature, always a participant, refused passive observation. The Rhone's depths churned with hidden currents, testing even the mightiest of creatures. Elephants, usually grounded and calm, now felt the tension not from Roman arrows but from the silent ancient power of the river. Mahouts, knowing these beasts well, whispered reassurances, their familiar voices a balm against anxiety. As the river conspired with the wind to unsettle them, trunks and tusks rose, guided by trust in their handlers' repetitive rhythms. From the Roman side, the spectacle was unsettling. They had never faced an intrusion of this nature, animals and tactics alien to their expectations. As the elephants moved, their enormous frames creating waves of motion through the river, Roman units scrambled to respond. Used to human adversaries, they now had to confront something entirely foreign, the mass of animal presence challenging their strategic norms. In the centre of this theatre of war, amidst the splashes and shouts, the crossing commenced. The elephants led, massive drums of muscle and determination, overcoming the water's pull. Here was a confluence of raw power and astute command, where the natural became extraordinary through concerted effort. Mahouts guided with skill, not coerced but collaborating, as elephants' choreography played out against the rushing water. It was a scene of orchestrated chaos where discipline met the unpredictability of nature. Roman forces, though surprised, were not idle. They reacted with volleys of stones and arrows, each projectile a desperate attempt to counteract the weighty progression of Hannibal's beasts. The battle turned adaptive, Roman soldiers recalibrating their tactics as quickly as the scenes before them shifted. The chaos of battle brought confusion but also opportunity as each side navigated this unfolding drama. Triumph came as Hannibal's forces reached the further shore, their bodies soaked yet undeterred, their spirits buoyed by the certainty of achievement amid the echoes of prehistoric struggles. For those who witnessed it, this crossing was monumental, a redefinition of what was possible even when faced with nature's refusal to comply. Romans stood by, shadowed by the weight of new realities, adjusting strategies to match an adversary unbound by conventional limits. The crossing not only mirrored Hannibal's audacity, but heralded a shift in Roman understanding. The river, crossed by this patchwork of tactical genius and animal might, marked the introduction of a new war narrative. For Hannibal's forces, the victory cemented confidence in their methods, while for Rome, it signified learning of a different kind. A prelude to a battle of wits as much as of weapons across Europe's theatre. Hannibal's crossing was not merely geographical but temporal, a stride into an era of unforeseeable warfare, marked by relentless innovation and courage. Descending into the Isère Valley, Hannibal's army found itself at a crucial juncture between unforgiving beauty and impending adversity. Towering pines cast shifting shadows over the vast landscape, as the chill in the air served as a harbinger of the harsh trials awaiting them. Here, strategic decisions hung heavily in the balance, with each step echoing potential triumphs or devastating failures. The elephants, monumental creatures of war, faced a formidable test of endurance against both nature and circumstance. The Gauls, traditional nomads ingrained in the land's ebb and flow, became vital guides through this foreign terrain. Livy's accounts shine a light on these enigmatic locals, whose adeptness with the land beneath their feet proved invaluable to the foreign interlopers. Trust was a fragile construct, born of necessity and vulnerability. The valley was not just a geographical challenge, but a cultural intersection, as Hannibal's disciplined military met the earthwise Gauls, forging alliances amidst shared uncertainty. The Carthaginian army was perpetually shadowed by the spectre of starvation, but for the elephants, their titanic appetites presented an even greater logistical conundrum. Sustaining these behemoths was a high-wire act of innovation and desperation, as historians have detected a sudden influx of fig and barley pollen in the Grenoble area, coinciding with Hannibal's push through this region. This sudden agricultural footprint speaks to the army's sheer desperation to gather what they could, while innovating diets to stave off the looming threat of famine. Here, even fermented figs became a staple, a peculiar fusion of resourcefulness and necessity, nourishing both man and beast in this unforgiving environment. Navigating the dense pine forests of the Isère Valley, another challenge arose, one of tusk wear and maintenance. An elephant's tusks, symbols of power and tools of survival, faced relentless abrasion among the rugged trunks and thick underbrush. Hannibal's logisticians, drawing from rudimentary veterinary knowledge, concocted pine resin solutions to mitigate this wear, creatively paralleling ancient veterinary practices. Livy's texts stress the importance of these environmental impacts, prompting careful stewardship of these towering assets. Advancing deeper into the valley, these forces encountered the cultural ethos of the Gauls. They were unwitting yet crucial partners in this historic trek, sharing knowledge of local flora and offering robust labour. It was a symbiotic relationship fostered by necessity rather than camaraderie. Amid tales and barter negotiations beneath towering trees, alliances were built out of practicality, creating a rich tapestry of shared stories amidst the chaos. The fermented figs mentioned in Gallic songs symbolise this fleeting unity, as the shared experience of conflict momentarily bridged disparate worlds. Through treacherous terrain, Hannibal's advance demanded an artful mastery of controlled chaos. The path twisted through uncertain ground, where each false step risked calamity. The elephants, imposing yet gentle, were more than mere muscle. They embodied the aura of morale and momentum, imbuing Hannibal's strategy with their colossal presence. Every dusty footprint left on this sacred ground underscored a tale of survival, painted in textures of leather hide and pine shadow, reaffirming the courage born amidst adversity. Hannibal's acumen transcended conventional combat, enlisting nature itself into a psychological war. The dense forest and elusive mist transformed the valley into both sanctuary and cryptic opponent. The Romans, entrenched in their own strength, became uneasily aware of the larger-than-life creatures advancing through legends, fear seeping through their ranks, challenging their preconceived notions of dominance. The majesty of gargantuan elephants ghosting through the woods redefined warfare, weaving tales of awe and dread into the woodland whispers. Among these trials lay a testament to adaptability, as the campaign's success hinged on foresight and innovation. Settling within the valley, Hannibal's forces calibrated strategies against the fluctuating demands of the wilderness, tempering immediate challenges with long-term resolve. Rises of terrain and shifting conditions sculpted the path they would carve through history, a tangible demonstration of human determination entwined with animal kinship. This journey through chaotic ravines stood as a testament to their ingenuity, survival, and enduring legacy. Under the dense pine canopy, the encampments transformed with nightfall, becoming a realm of reverent transformation. Darkness imparted a new dimension to perceptions, infusing campsites with an otherworldly aura. Campfire flickers danced like ancient storytellers' tongues, weaving narratives that transcended the corporeal struggle of the day. These moments of reflection, cloaked in shadow and lore, offered gritty layers of human connection amidst the grueling mission, reframing the trek from ordeal to epic. Amid the endurance trials, the unspoken toll of loss cast shadows over their progress. Both human and elephantine casualties mounted quietly yet profoundly, with discarded cloaks and abandoned packs marking the weary path. Hannibal's army, resilient against nature's capriciousness, bore each loss as a silent ache etched into the valley, shaping their journey with emotional authenticity. As Hannibal's forces prepared for the looming Alpine ascent, they emerged from the Isère Valley, fortified by their alliance with the land. This chapter inched toward the inevitable zenith, solidifying resolve against the icy challenges that yet lay ahead. The valley echoed with stories of ancient pines, and as it receded into memory, it stood as testament to Hannibal's unwavering strategy and the enduring courage embodied by the men and their monumental beasts. As history's curtain rises on the next stage, the evergreen shadows mark the warrior's path, bridging the chasm between history and myth. The ascent of the Col de la Traversette loomed ahead for Hannibal and his men, a daunting challenge that cast the Alpine peaks as silent watchers in their saga. Here within these mountains, the harsh landscape beckoned with the promise of perilous trials. The force, forged from a mix of men, horses and elephants, had to battle not only the rugged terrain, but also the growing spectres of fear and fatigue. These elephants, accustomed to more forgiving climates, stood as unlikely but vital troops in this campaign. Yet their presence was essential, each step forward brittle, with the risk of slipping into oblivion. The warriors felt their spirits buoyed by the tales of Carthage's past glories, even as bitter cold gnawed at their resolve. With each breath forming ethereal clouds in the crisp mountain air, the men waded through an unexpected chill, their path blanketed in a cloak of mist. The relentless cold demanded adaptation. It rendered the elephant's ability to endure a perennial question, answered only by the mahout's guiding commands carried on the winds. Hannibal, legendary for his tactical brilliance and improvisational acumen, faced a crucible unlike any before. This was a trial among craggy stones and echoing valleys, demanding every ounce of wit and strength. Life for the army became a tapestry of shared reliance, where man and elephant wove between the lines of survival. The elephants, colossal and resilient, embodied a unique engineering marvel. Their power harnessed to haul supplies and warriors across an icy tundra. In this frozen crucible, every movement harboured danger. The prospects of a fall threatened not just the beasts, but their human counterparts connected by fate and necessity. An unspoken bond formed, spun from shared adversity and perseverance, marked by whispers and gentle acknowledgements from trunk to hand. This march, however, was overshadowed by an undercurrent of constant tension. Elephants traversed terrains ill-suited for their giant strides, their weight a keystone upon which the army's hopes precariously perched. Each step was a gamble, the creature's fragility veiling a power that few fully understood. This coexistence painted a theatrical dance of survival, a vista filled with foreboding, as the mountains both ensnared and enticed. The very ground became an adversary, turning treacherous with every step. The elephants, nurtured under the sun's glare, struggled against the new enemy, the unseen crevasses beneath the ice's deceptive surface. Mahouts tread cautiously, invoking the whispers of ancient wisdom, passed through generations in their tireless endeavours to protect against hidden dangers. The wind, cold as a tempered blade, carved through the ranks, offering both breathtaking scenery and lethal beauty as it swept to the precipices. In these frigid reaches, scattered artefacts revealed tales long hidden, offering glimpses into this world of survival. The fabled poop site unearthed traces of exotic dung bacteria, relics of an ancient crossing carved into history's frozen tapestry. These remnants told of a struggle against nature's dominion, of short-lived shelters and desperate strategies envisioned under snow-laden skies. Through layers of history, they whispered the resilience of an army navigating this icy abyss. Polybius, the chronicler of Hannibal's exploits, captured these scenes in vivid strokes, recounting elephants manoeuvring across the sheer ice, a feat blending the miraculous with the mundane. Men clung to their massive sides, tethered by ropes, balancing between survival and despair. His account immortalised the elephants' unwavering stride across the frozen expanse, a testament both to their resilience and to Hannibal's strategic vision, straddling the precipice between triumph and disaster. Amidst these trials, Hannibal's audacity shone through, a chosen path that sidestepped Roman intelligence, capitalising on the Alps' unyielding facade to outmaneuver expected defences. This geographical gambit spoke of a strategy defined less by aggression and more by cunning. Yet the cold calculus of survival demanded that Hannibal not only gaze ahead, but manage the immediate, sustaining his forces through natural adversity, while laying claim to the landscape inch by grueling inch. For Hannibal's ranks, the elephants epitomised the possibility of miracles amid chaos, oases of strength and morale in a snow-shrouded desert. Each elephant moved as a living emblem, affirming Hannibal's vision that brought mountain to heel under determined spirit. Yet, beyond mere symbols, they functioned as keystones in Hannibal's war machine, bearing the loads necessary for conquest within ornate howdahs. Amidst an orchestration of snow and survival, they stitched islands of purpose into a broader narrative of intention. Here beliefs merged seamlessly with the landscape, each prayer a thin thread swaying against the alpine gusts. Ritual and spirituality intermingled, sketching hope against a backdrop of snow-draped peaks as soldiers turned to deities, entwined with their fates in whispered incantations. This intercession of tradition within the icy heights cast a shimmering light upon their mortal struggle, binding them to a shared yearning for divine favour amidst nature's cruel arbiter. These moments threaded into a legacy, a timeless monument of courage and resilience, marking where sheer resolve overcame icy barrens. This traverse, mile by frigid mile, carved a saga into history's stone. From beneath this snow arose tales of survival and ingenuity. Hannibal's epic crossing inspired generations, its lessons etched in the enduring fabric that bridges time, a reminder of humanity's perpetual dance with fate among the frozen works of gods. As they reached Italy's plains, Hannibal's force, hardened by their Alpine trials, stood ready, poised to transform their endurance into legends, whispered through the annals of time. Morning light flickered over the jagged peaks of the Alps as Hannibal and his battle-worn army readied for an ascent that promised nothing short of wrathful grandeur. Each step felt as if it bore the weight of legends, yet to be crafted. They'd already conquered the Rhone and Isère valleys, but now the mountain itself stood as an indifferent adversary. The path to Italy whispered through ancient whispers and presented itself more as a menacing challenge than a simple route. Soldiers, driven by Hannibal's vehemence and promises of glory, prepared to march into the jaws of an icy adversary that did not forgive missteps. Hannibal's officers assembled, encircled by the air of weariness mingled with unwavering resolve. The strategies woven under his leadership were directed toward both grace and survival. Across these elfin ranges, every patch of snow concealed a trap set by time, and every account of past ventures into these Alps loomed like ghost stories turned prophetic. Bravery mingled with palpable dread became the soldiers' sole armour, yet the promise of Roman blood lent urgency to their march. Then nature, in her stoic majesty, unleashed her fury. By the second day, the sky darkened with the promise of malice. Winds wound through the passes like phantoms, singing of unseen dangers until they escalated into a terrifying howl. Avalanches thundered down, ensnaring men and mighty elephants alike. What followed was unthinking chaos. Boulders and snow merged into an avalanche of cold death, a force of obliteration sweeping the Carthaginians into its icy flow. When the snow finally settled, silence held a cruel dominion. Hannibal, eyes glinting with unyielding spirit, assessed what was left of his forces. The resolve carved into his soul by each soldier's loss spurred him onward. Adaptation became a survival instrument, tales of past survival fueling the weary into reluctant heroes. Their advance must proceed, spurred by Hannibal's cold calculation and the rich tapestry of myths they were destined to weave. As if nature weren't trial enough, word spread among the ranks of Gallic tribes lurking amid the drifts, lying in wait like vultures, eager for spoils. These tribes, indifferent to anything beyond the allure of plunder, presented peril alongside the already harsh elements. But Hannibal's strategic mind negotiated through this storm of betrayal. Some Gauls, perhaps beguiled by the sight of elephants never before seen in such numbers, chose a tentative alliance over enmity, proving invaluable through their intel and guidance. Yet alliances were as fleeting as mountain shadows. Trust was brittle, yet the knowledge gleaned from these Gallic informants turned potential disaster into opportunity. Armed with insight into Gallic ambush plans, the Carthaginians counterattacked with the deftness of seasoned strategists, snatching victory from an ambush fraught with lethal potential. Here lay a testament to Hannibal's genius, not merely to survive, but to anticipate and conquer human treachery masked as adversity. The relentless wind of the Alps grew a mythic presence among Hannibal's men. They whispered of spirits that haunted the peaks, the elements shaping tales of phantoms to accompany physical exhaustion. Snowflakes danced like ethereal ghosts mesmerised by the rugged terrain. Yet the elephant's presence, so audaciously out of place in this stark white wilderness, transformed these mythical imaginations into almost tangible predictions of survival. Amidst the alpine desolation, Despair pressed against the soldiers' hearts. Their ranks, thinned by natural fury and relentless obstacles, whispered tales of isolation and dreaded spectres of failing hope. The oppressive frieze offered solitude, each traveller a mere speck against the mountain's ancient sprawl. Yet camaraderie kindled amidst this crucible, friendship forged through struggle. Hannibal's impassioned leadership emerged as their beacon, a conduit of shared triumph over talent and terrain. Logistics became a delicate dance of survival, an art that balanced necessity with ingenuity. Food was scarce, morsels painfully gathered from the harsh landscape and rationed with precision. Hunger was a relentless motivator, pressing men forward into forays that gathered pine nuts and lichen from the alpine barrens. Behind every successful forage, Hannibal's leadership orchestrated an unsung symphony of pragmatism and relentless will. As weathered veterans of alpine drudgery, Hannibal's forces bore the marks of trials written in flesh and spirit. Their diminishing numbers saw a genesis in newfound resilience. Strategies were honed to fit the rugged terrain, evolving as the men adapted to the high-altitude battlegrounds. They traversed daunting, narrow ledges, guided by weathered common sense. Hannibal's command-wielding strategy, tempered by necessity. Yet amidst the snow's unnatural grip, hope illuminated their path. Ancient paths previously wrapped in ice revealed themselves as winter began to relinquish its hold, exposing trails and markers that suggested a passage toward victory. Despite the relentless trials, they pressed forward, soldiers intertwined within a human tapestry that traced arcs of valour against Imperial Rome's might. On the final day, Hannibal's forces emerged victorious over the mountain's tyranny. As they crested the pass, harsh grandeur yielded to the Italian landscape below, sprawling out like a conqueror's prize. From this zenith, the Po Valley seemed less hostile, a harbinger of possibility laced with Roman challenge. The hardest obstacle behind them, Hannibal's weary soldiers found resurgence in this promise. They descended from the cruel embrace of the Alps, fortified by shared resilience. Together they traversed enemy and nature, stepping nearer to fate, a tale forged in ice and blood. In the freezing grip of the Alps, the stone barrier stood firm and unyielding, daring any who sought passage. Hannibal and his army, locked in their embrace, faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge. These towering peaks, sculpted from limestone, were no mere hills but a vast rocky crucible, testing the resolve of both man and beast. The elephants, creatures bred in the sun-soaked plains of Africa, appeared out of place in this hostile terrain. Yet they were crucial to Hannibal's plan. Their immense bulk meant to forge a path where none existed, a feat as monumental as it was precarious. As the days wore on, every step became a struggle between the imposing Alps and Hannibal's men. The usual trails were nothing more than narrow tracks, pathways beaten into the rocks by centuries of footfall. For the soldiers, each stride along these ancient paths was a reminder of the precarious nature of their enterprise. This landscape, silent save for the wind's howl, demanded not just physical endurance, but raw ingenuity. Hannibal himself became a master tactician, his mind working tirelessly to navigate this labyrinth of stone, all while avoiding the fatal embrace of its glacial voids. Amongst these legends of crossing arose the tale of vinegar and fire, a myth passed through generations, spoken of with wonder and skepticism alike. Faced with an unyielding rock wall, Hannibal's engineers supposedly conjured an ancient alchemy, using vinegar to weaken the stone after heating it with fire. While captivating, This account by Livy stretches the imagination, leaving historians divided. The reality remains murky, yet the very idea underscores the era's fusion of desperation and creativity, traits that remain hallmarks of Hannibal's audacious campaign. Tests in modern laboratories have attempted to unravel this mystery, reenacting the conditions under which such a method would be used. Some success was found in fragmenting small stones with these techniques, yet the question remains whether such methods could scale up to the enormity faced by Hannibal's march through the Alps. These endeavours, although inconclusive, emphasise the spirit of innovation during Hannibal's campaign, a testament to the relentless pursuit of solutions in the face of nature's formidable might. Amidst these efforts, fire played its own role as both tool and symbol. Harnessed intentionally, it became an agent of change, transforming the landscape with its primal force. By applying heat to the stubborn limestone, Hannibal's men sought to exploit the stone's hidden weaknesses, turning solidity into fragility. Fire, in this context, served not just as a physical tool, but as a psychological edge, harnessing a power both ancient and fearsome, echoing the chaos of Hannibal's homeland far to the south. Even stripped of the fantastical, fire's utility stands firm. The use of flame in warfare left a historical imprint, documented across epochs as a tool to breach natural defences. The symbolism of fire stretched beyond its physical form, reflecting the desperation and determination of Hannibal's forces, drawing energy from this elemental force as they had done with every other advantage at their disposal. This legacy reinforces the perception of Hannibal's crossing as an epic tale of human tenacity against the Alpine stronghold. However, Hannibal's strategic genius extended to the living engines of his military machine, the elephants. These colossal creatures, more accustomed to African savannas, became essential instruments in the assault against the mountain's defences. Their sheer mass was harnessed to break ground, their powerful legs trampling stone and foliage into a path more congenial to Hannibal's army. Far from a mere display of exotic military might, these elephants embodied an ancient synergy between man and nature, tools of war that could reshape the environment as much as they could intimidate an enemy. Driving such powerful creatures through the labyrinthine Alps required a deft understanding of their capabilities. Trained and managed by Hannibal's expert handlers, these elephants became indispensable, combining instinctual strength with tactical foresight. Their broad feet, suited to uneven terrain, distributed weight evenly and prevented them from sinking where others floundered. Here was ancient logistics in its most raw and ingenious form, turning these incredible animals into indispensable allies in the midst of hostile lands. Hannibal's engineers, unsung heroes of this daring journey, brought forth their skills in shaping paths where none existed. Armed only with simple tools and an intricate knowledge of the land, they hewed trails from rocky echelons with determination and ingenuity. Their efforts, though seemingly primitive, laid the groundwork for a passage that would enable the unimaginable, a way for an army to move across this treacherous expanse, a feat as much about human creativity as brute force. Amid all this, sustaining the army was a strategic challenge that loomed as large as the mountains themselves. As paths emerged, so did the demands of ensuring that men and beasts alike were fed and clothed against the elements. The logistics of provisioning such a force became a true art form, a complex ballet of supply lines that underscored survival itself. Amidst this chaos, those responsible for supply, unsung masters of resource management, performed a delicate dance, their foresight instrumental in sustaining life within the icy reaches. Beyond mere battle, Hannibal's crossing sparked cultural tremors throughout these Alpine territories. The tribes encountered along the way faced choices of alliance or opposition, each decision reverberating through their societies like echoes across the peaks. Some tribes, lured by the promises of riches or coerced by the threat of force, became allies, feeding into Hannibal's stratagems. Others resisted fiercely, entangling the Carthaginian forces in a mesh of tribal conflicts, a testament to the intricate interplay of power and diplomacy in these stark, silent lands. Ultimately, Hannibal's Alpine passage left an indelible mark on history, a bold stroke on the canvas of military strategy that has captivated generations. This audacious undertaking influenced countless tactical doctrines, serving as a cautionary tale and a beacon of strategic prowess. In its wake, Rome reshaped her defences, alliances solidified in the shadow of Hannibal's legendary exploits. The legacy endures across eons, a narrative woven with strands of daring brilliance, where myth and history entwine to capture the imagination of all who explore this timeless saga of human endeavour and survival. Emerging from the dense forests of the Col de la Traversette, Hannibal's army confronted a new and unforeseen enemy, the thick, blinding fog of the Italian Alps. A ghostly shroud, it muted the world to a haunting silence, amplifying every uncertain step. As the elephants, once mighty symbols of Carthaginian power, now hesitated, their trunks cautiously explored the unseen ground. The mahouts strained to maintain control amidst the disorienting cloak. Commands were little more than whispers swallowed by the damp air, while hardened warriors grappled with an overwhelming tension that each step nurtured. The fog was more than a weather phenomenon, it was a mental trial, gnawing at the resolve of Hannibal's men. With the path beneath their feet treacherous with snow and ice, unseen obstacles seemed to conspire against them. Voices broke the silence, cries of caution, alerts of danger. Yet the limited visibility turned every misstep into a potential calamity. Guided only by instinct and memory, they trudged on with the vast Italian landscape hidden from view, aware of the trials that still lay ahead. Amidst biting cold that seeped through armour and hides, the elephants, accustomed to African warmth, suffered acutely. Their robust skin, a formidable barrier in battle, offered scant defence against the harsh frost. Cracked, bleeding feet that once confidently traversed rugged terrains faltered on the icy slopes. Mahouts, desperate to relieve their charge's discomfort, improvised. Warming oils were massaged onto frostbitten feet, and rough wraps of spare cloth provided scant warmth. Watching their beloved beasts struggle, the men felt not just the physical unravelling of their invasion strategy, but also a personal loss, as each elephant represented a precious investment. Yet despite their disheartenment, they paired resolve with mutual protection, huddling against the elements and cherishing every forward step as a victory over the wilderness. The path down was fraught with peril. Chaotic compositions of jagged rock and shifting scree defined their descent, demanding a careful blend of urgency and meticulousness. Mighty elephants, otherwise an unstoppable force, now needed coaxing and reassurance to navigate the treacherous terrain. Every stumble reverberated through the ranks, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between ingenuity and catastrophe. Yet it wasn't fear that drove them, but determination to survive. With immense mental fortitude, Hannibal's men faced these challenges head-on, their collective effort inching them toward the promise of Italy's fertile lands, a tantalising reward gleaming just beyond the reach of fog and frost. Crucial to this arduous march were the mahouts, their ancient craft taking on new importance during the descent. Charged not only with navigating the elephants but also safeguarding them, these seasoned handlers relied on ingenuity. They crafted makeshift harnesses from ropes and employed chants to soothe the besieged animals. Their greatest challenge, however, lay in balancing the elephant's physical and psychological well-being. Clear heads were essential to success in gossamer-thin conditions. Songs from the plains of Africa resonated in calming tones, and tranquil familiarity provided firm footing through a disorienting passage. This bond between human and beast formed the army's unyielding backbone, uniting them in a struggle that would test their faith and endurance. Stories of unexpected heroism and unlikely bonds, forged in the crucible of adversity, became the stuff of legend. A young mahout, refusing to leave his faltering elephant's side, lent both courage to face the icy winds and strength to navigate perilous ground. More than survival, these were tales of profound, shared struggle that bolstered the spirits of all who heard them. Another tale, often recalled around campfires, spoke of an elephant using its trunk to nudge a fallen soldier back to his feet. As the fog thickened, such stories became essential embers of hope, a reminder of their resilience in this relentless march. When the fog finally parted, revealing the lush expanse of the Italian plains, emotions surged. Relief, disbelief, and unrestrained elation coursed through Hannibal's weary troops as they witnessed a promise fulfilled. The vast, verdant meadows of Italy stretched before them. The sight marked the conclusion of their mountainous ordeal, signalling the start of their Italian campaign. With resources now abundant, the wearied soldiers basked in opportunities to replenish their supplies, venture alliances, and ready themselves for future challenges. Hannibal contemplated the campaign's next phase, envisioning not only a foothold, but a decisive step towards Roman heartlands. Despite the triumph of reaching Italy, the heavy cost of their journey was bitterly clear. Of the great beast that had set forth on this legendary passage, only a handful survived. Each loss bore personal and strategic weight, a poignant reminder of nature's icy grasp and the companionship severed by it. Yet even with diminished numbers, these survivors now carried the stories and expectations of an army that had withstood the Alps. Every scar and frostbitten wound registered as testament to their resilience. And as the men gazed southward towards Rome, fresh determination surged alongside the rising sun. Poised and prepared, they marched with echoed resolve, stepping toward a future bathed in both Rome's promise and Hannibal's enduring legacy. After surmounting the frosty embrace of the Alps, Hannibal's cherished elephants, though diminished in number, bore the scars of their ordeal as badges of survival. Their traverse through the jagged reaches etched them into living legends. No longer just tools of war, they became enduring symbols of Hannibal's relentless ambition. Emerging onto the lush, sprawling canvas of the Po Valley, they seemed almost otherworldly, creatures born from myth to walk among the fertile fields. Here these gargantuan beasts were not mere elephants, but the embodiment of a campaign that defied both nature and expectation. The Romans, standing amid this new theatre of conflict, faced with them a thunderous legion, unfamiliar beyond words. The primal fear intertwined with sheer befuddlement played across the faces of the Roman cavalry, who, in the face of these mammoth forces, found themselves hesitating, their tendons taut with newfound trepidation. It wasn't just the might of the elephants that unsettled them, it was the surreal image the contradiction that something so mighty had emerged from the icy embrace, unbroken. Hannibal, ever the master of misdirection and surprise, saw in these creatures more than their bearing. He saw potential to inspire panic, chaos and dread in his adversaries. His tactics were daring in their simplicity, turning these majestic beasts into living battering rams, driving them into the neatly ordered Roman ranks, sowing confusion and disrupting a well-rehearsed formations. Elephants, once brushed off as mere exotic spectacles from distant lands, now stood as the vanguard of a strategy that drew strength from the unexpected. They crushed troops beneath their feet, sowed shock waves of disorder, and tore apart cavalry manoeuvres with eerie efficiency, making the Romans realise that war had morphed into something new, unfathomable. Their potency came to the fore at the Battle of Ticinus, when Hannibal hurled these titanic beasts into fray, commanding the pulse of the conflict with their earth-shattering presence. The Roman cavalry, meeting the elephants for the first time in pitched battle, found themselves overwhelmed by both the spectacle and the real, visceral threat, the rules of war rewritten in an instant. This baptism by fire left the Romans staggered, as Hannibal wielded his elephants not just as engines of destruction, but as strategic linchpins, bending the engagement to his favour. They wrought havoc amidst the ranks, their strength jeopardising cohesion and scattering discipline to the winds. From this first encounter, the Romans gleaned a brutal education in adaptability. They realised the gargantuan challenges Hannibal posed required not just inherited discipline, but a willingness to evolve, to adapt on a hair-trigger reaction. Where initial terror reigned supreme, the Romans turned to ingenuity, engineering countermeasures. Loud noises, fiery projectiles, and specialised units trained to probe the elephant's flanks for weaknesses. Tactics morphed overnight, and with each engagement their methods refined, a microcosm of Roman ingenuity drawn under duress. Confronted with this foreign threat, the once immutable Roman military doctrine began to shift, embracing change where necessary. Waves of missile troops and nimble javelin throwers were trained to sow chaos within pachyderm ranks, while seasoned soldiers targeted the guiding mayhouts. Orders to reform in the face of surging elephants gave birth to formations, creating gaps which these colossal creatures might stumble into, robbing them of their chaotic potential. In their triumph over once unassailable adversaries, Romans learned to integrate adaptability as a core tenet of their burgeoning military ethos. Yet Hannibal's elephants were never just instruments of war, they were conduits of dread. Harnessing their sensory impact, the Carthaginian commander engendered a pervasive sense of anxiety within the Roman psyche. For when those colossal forms moved through the mist, their arrival felt eerily divine. Hannibal wielded this art of fear masterfully, manipulating foes into states of uncertainty, even before the battles began, casting the maintenance of military morale as crucial as the thrusts of spears and swords. These beasts' footprints, metaphorically and literally, imprinted themselves across the historical battlefield, leaving traces that still fascinate historians and archaeologists alike. Artefacts like the African forest elephant molar, discovered at Cannae, cast glimpses into the composition of these ancient war formations, breeding more questions than answers. This lends Hannibal's accounts an enigmatic air, each archaeological discovery an echo resonant with his tactical brilliance. In time, as the dust of the Punic Wars settled, elephants transcended their origins of terror to hold a place in Roman society, their presence in parades, games and celebrations signifying an acceptance of their once feared power as trophies of conquest. Rome's ability to assimilate the essence of war elephants stood testament to its adaptive prowess, turning instruments of dread into symbols of might and triumph. Hannibal's legacy, through his elephants, served, albeit unknowingly, as a blueprint for Roman resilience, ensuring these living legends remained vivid actors in the theatre of Roman memory. As we reflect on this remarkable campaign, the March of Hannibal's Elephants remains an emblem of innovation, meeting Rome's indomitable spirit. They forced a re-evaluation of tactics, a reconsideration of perceived invincible forces, sparking evolutions in military adaptations that propelled the Romans toward an empire forged through fire and necessity. Their narrative, embodied through awe and fear, continues to captivate history's spectators. If you found this tale as gripping as we have, don't forget to like and subscribe for more immersive, historical sagas that reveal the strangeness and humanity of our shared past.